Keep 100% of your claim. G4 Claims.
If you've been hurt in a road accident that wasn't your fault, you should really talk to G4 Claims first. Unlike road accident solicitors, we don't charge you for our services, which could see you better off. To keep 100% of your compensation, have a chat with Nicole and the team. You'll be glad you did. Search online for G4 Claims.
Keep 100% of your claim. G4 Claims.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Sellik the Thunder podcast, episode number 87. And Ryan McGinley, it's the first of the Brendan Rodgers. Yeah, well, do you know what? Technically, it's no, because the old school version of the Sellik the Thunder was while Brendan Rodgers was in charge. If anybody remembers that, I doubt anybody does. The old school version, but technically for us, Ryan, it's the first edition of the Brendan Rodgers era. You're my only guest this evening. How are you doing?
I'm great. I don't know about you. Writing about it all day today, waiting for that announcement to come through the socials. It ends up coming through the stock exchange first. Once you seen that coming through, you were like, it's only a matter of time now. We're just waiting on that statement. Only took a couple of minutes, and then Brendan Rodgers is the manager again. Wow. It's
such a whirlwind of a few days, being a Celtic fan. But whirlwind of a few weeks, you could say, Ryan, because, of course, Brendan Rodgers was very quickly named a potential successor to Ange Postecoglou. But it's all came round so very quickly. We're going to talk about all of it in this podcast. You will notice, ladies and gents, it's just me and McGinley. No Kieran, no Callum. We've done this a couple of times.
We did, but we've done this more in StreamYard.
Aye, I can't think of it the last time we've done it here, though. It must have been like episode 50 something, like a long time ago.
Back in the doldrums.
Somebody, one of the fans will know what time it was. But as just the two of us, Kieran and Callum are still over in Croatia. I came back early. Some think it was for a wedding. It's just because I was ITK. I knew I had to be back for break.
I came home to lead the podcast.
Yes, exactly. I came home to make sure I was getting the content out for you. No, I was back early for a wedding. They're still over there. Next episode, one of the two will probably be back on with me and McGinley. But it's just the two of us this evening, Ryan, to celebrate this new Celtic manager. And it's one that's certainly divided opinion. But we sat here last week. We spoke about the possibility of it being Rodgers. We spoke about the pros and the cons of being Rodgers. For me, there's more pros than cons, right?
I think there's hardly any cons when you look at it. He's quite simply put, and I said this earlier on today, I've been saying it all day, he's the best manager that Celtic could have got, realistically. It just so happens that he's got that link with Celtic as well. So we're in a really great position with regards to the fact that we know that he brings success with him when he's a Celtic manager. He's never lost a trophy when he's a Celtic manager. He's won 7 out of 7 in his first tenure. He pretty much guarantees you success. You don't get that with a lot of managers. Yep. There was risky appointments there. Knutson was a risk. Enzo Maresca would have been a massive risk.
And don't get me wrong, Rodgers is obviously a risk too.
Yeah, but
this
is the least risky.
Yeah, it's kind of a low risk, high reward type scenario that we're kind of getting into with Rodgers here. We'd like to think anyway.
I think both backs are getting scratched because Rodgers' ego will have been hurt by the whole Leicester escapade. The start of the Leicester experience was great for him. Obviously, he won the FA Cup and then he won the Community Shield, get back-to-back 5th places, which is a phenomenal achievement considering that top 6 is usually, it's those 6 teams, that's usually what it's like. So for him to break that on 2 occasions is a real achievement. What I would say is this second time around, I think we've got a better manager for it. He'll have played against these big teams every second, third week. He'll know how to come up against these teams when we do play them in the Champions League. Yeah, I'm absolutely buzzing about it, to be honest.
I can't be more excited because we've known, on this podcast straight away when we're like, oh, Ange's just gone, who would be a replacement? I've said Brendan from the first minute. That was who I wanted. That's who we've got, and I'm very excited about that. But you talk about pros and cons, Ryan. It's just one of those ones that for me, it just feels like, a lot of people will be looking at it and going, it's backwards. It's, I wish I went elsewhere. He left in this manner. But I look at it and I go, well, I like winning. And this is a winner. And it's a guy that I think has got a point to prove. Now, you get a lot of Rangers fans and they're giving it the whole, he's not coming up against Senderos and Hill this time. I don't think that Suter and Goldson is that vast an upgrade, to be quite honest. But
Came up against Goldson before.
yeah, and he managed to do it. And listen, Michael Beale is obviously setting up for something this season. He's getting backed. He's got to try and build a squad. There will be competition here next year, but you can't sit down and tell me with a straight face as a Rangers supporter or any opposition supporter in this country and go, you're not worried with Brendan Rodgers. This is for me, Ryan, a top level, upper echelon, elite coach that Celtic have went out and hired. And his past shouldn't mean anything. Whether he was Celtic manager or not, should be looked upon the same. It's an elite level manager. And that's what Celtic have went out and done. For me, that's a huge statement of intent.
Yeah, it's one of those ones where, we've slagged Emmett Desmond before for not really being involved in a lot of things, but it seems as if when he gets involved, things happen, and he's very much intervened with this whole managerial search. I think he wanted his man back. He wanted Brendan Rodgers back. He would have still been annoyed at the way he left, but these guys are big. They're all big boys, you know. They'll all make up. They'll kiss and make up, and they'll do it for the good of the football club. I just think there's so many pros with regards to Rodgers coming back. There's the redemption arc is there as well.
One of the pros, and you're touching on how Emmett Desmond's probably stepped in and how he wanted his man. He's went out there and he's got it done. One of the first lines that we see in the statement from Celtic today was one of Brendan Rodgers' quotes, and Rodgers says something along the lines of, the minute he was asked, he knew the answer. He knew it was a yes, and that's what he wanted. Now, listen, I'm not going to sit here and say that everything Brendan Rodgers says is gospel.
No,
we've been done before. As the song goes,
before.
Tell me lies, tell me sweet little lies, Brendan. Right, but at the end of the day, it's clear to see he wanted this, right? You don't sign a 3-year contract for a laugh. You know, he's came in here, he's got this job, he could have held out. And that's the point I was going to make here. Brendan Rodgers is a manager who, give it 3 or 4 months, he would have been number 1 contender for a majority of the first Premier League jobs to open up. And he's chose not to do that, and he's chose to come to Celtic. Now, for me, that shows that not only there's a hunger at Celtic to make a top-level appointment, but there's a hunger in Brendan Rodgers to come back and finish off something that maybe he doesn't think he did finish. And that excites me.
Yeah, it excites me as well. I think he does have unfinished business, particularly in Europe, I would say. He must have, this is what I've been talking about as well, he must have been given so many assurances that he is going to get sufficiently backed in this transfer window. Yeah. Why would he come back otherwise? I think they've all made up with regards to everything that happened in that final season. Yes, we heard stuff from Lawwell, we heard stuff from Brendan Rodgers, that sort of crossfire that came between the two of them. They've obviously made up, because if it was untenable, then Brendan Rodgers wouldn't be in that position. It might have been even the point that Brendan Rodgers hadn't fell out with the board whatsoever. It was the other way about, and they've had to mend things, because Brendan Rodgers has said nothing but good things about Celtic since he left. Every
interview you see, he talks about a desire to come back one day. This came earlier than we thought, but you're right.
I did think he would come back one day. I just didn't think it would be 4 years down the line. Yeah. That's incredible. The fact that we have got this manager, a manager that was openly courted by Arsenal before they signed Mikel Arteta following the sacking of Unai Emery. Leicester had to give him a 5-year deal for him to stay at the club to basically cover them. This is an elite level manager. I don't think it's getting talked about enough how good he is.
I think it's unfair, the treatment that Brendan Rodgers is getting from some in regards to his sacking at Leicester City. Like, I think it's incredibly
his
harsh.
Own success.
It's like, you know, Rodgers went in, and this is why we keep saying top level manager, elite level manager. He went in, he won the FA Cup for the first time in that club's history. Remember, Leicester never won an FA Cup before. Won the FA Cup, won a Community Shield, which I guess you can give or take. Community Shield, 2 5th place finishes, which you've touched on, not easy to do, and a European semi-final.
Get put out by Jose Mourinho.
And yet, some people are, but he got sacked. I mean, I think
a lot of managers get sacked down there. You look at that, it's almost expected. If you don't have a good season, if you have one bad season down there, you get sacked. It doesn't matter about the 5 seasons you've had beforehand. The only person that would maybe be an exception to is Pep Guardiola, I would say. But he's got that clout. If you have a bad season down south, you're more than likely going to get the bullet. That's just the nature of the beast now.
And he wasn't backed. Leicester have got a ton of problems behind the scenes. You know, you can't pinpoint all of the Leicester's problems on him. You can't say it was Brendan Rodgers that caused any of that. I think it'd be incredibly harsh. Now, I know there might be Leicester fans who might tune in and they might say, oh, we still wanted him out, Rodgers this, that, next thing. I think there was a lot more at the club, and I think that's been seen since his departure, and now moving forward, I think there's a lot more that he's focused on than what Brendan Rodgers was doing wrong. And this is a place where I'm happy to watch him come and give his management back to us. Because if you tell me 4 years ago, Ryan, that this is the position we'd be in, I would have laughed in your face.
I would have laughed 2 weeks ago.
I know,
Honestly,
I know, yeah.
See, at that cup final,
Uh-huh.
if somebody would have told us that Brendan Rodgers would be our manager in 2
next
weeks,
season.
it's absolutely crazy.
It's nuts when you think about it, innit?
Because I would think, oh no, we'll probably get like a Kevin Muscat or an Enzo Maresca, a continuity. Yes, we'll get continuity, but we'll get continuity because the guy was arguably one of our best ever managers. Is coming back to the club, a better manager than when he left the club.
Yeah.
He's more battle hardened. He's got that experience down south, and he'll still be able to bring in players. Plus, if you add that to the fact that we've got a great new scouting network, could be a total perfect harmony here. I was excited for the third season under Ange. I've got to be honest now. I'm even more excited for next season under Brendan Rodgers.
I've been trying my best. I've been talking to myself all day. Like, sounds like I'm a fucking loony.
You need to get checked for that.
I've been thinking and talking to myself all day while I've been working and while I've been making notes and all the rest of it. And I try, you know me, I always try and like usher out any recency bias. And I'm like, I try to look at things very level-headed and all the rest of it. And I don't want to suddenly sound like I'm making things up just because it's happening here and now. But suddenly there's a big part of me that's more excited for next year under Brendan than it was for next year under Ange. And,
yeah, me too.
And I genuinely... And I think it comes back to, I've been very open and honest about this over the last few years on my channel, on this podcast. Like, for as much as we loved Ange, I think it was probably the 2 most exciting years to watch on the park. But I've always said this, my favourite time as a Celtic supporter was under Brendan Rodgers for those 2.5 years he was here. Because the revolution that he started and the success that he ushered in was really the start of a different era at Celtic Football Club, and that allowed us to get into Ange, and it allowed us to continue on Rodgers' success. That was always my favourite, and I always dreamed of seeing Rodgers back one day, because I forgave him pretty quickly. I mean, if you go back to the COVID season, I was choking for Rodgers to come back then. I just didn't think we'd get it so soon, man, and it's just like, bring on next season already. I'm proper excited.
I just want pre-season to start already. I'm buzzing for that. The first game is against Yokohama, F Marinos.
Yeah.
Postecoglou's old team.
Think Ange will be there. Do you think he'll turn up still?
We know that he's going to be in Australia for pre-season.
Yeah. I think his first game's in Australia, isn't it? Like,
yeah,
his first game for Spurs.
I can't remember exactly who's, something like West Ham or something in
daft
Australia. But yeah, enough about Postecoglou. It's now
Postecoglou. Who's that? Who's
Don't
that?
clap yourself, come on. Now we're back in the Brendan bus. This is it. Brendan's bus is back and ready for business.
Hopefully
now I'm just excited about what players we're going to get linked with, because if rumours are to be believed, he's getting a war chest. So
well, let's get into that. I mean, just on the topic of the Brendan bus, let's hope it's another treble-winning open top bus by May. This May.
I think you can get one this time around.
I know. They just kind of popped in for the back, didn't they?
No.
Didn't even come in the bus.
Yeah, Postecoglou.
I think they learned their lesson after that disaster on with the treble. Aye, and
it's always a good thing when you're trying to remember what treble it was.
I know.
Those are the moments for me that realise how good we've had it.
Aye.
You know,
we're spoiled rotten.
Entitled
Sellik
winning
fans.
mentality.
What about
Always
Lenny?
been
He's
the
been piping up.
same. Yes, aye.
Right. Talking about this war chest that Ange could potentially... No, Ange. We're talking about Ange too much now. Fuck off, Ange. This war chest that Brendan could see. Let's talk about the finer details here. A 3-year contract has been signed, Ryan.
I think it would have been offensive to give him a rolling
Oh,
contract.
yeah. You can't give a rolling contract to a man like that.
After giving him a long-term contract the first time around, if you were to put him back in a rolling contract, I wouldn't want him as manager, because I think that'd be so offensive to the achievements that he had the first time around. You've got to give him a long-term deal. He's elite. You give him an elite contract.
Obviously there was a lot of talk coming out. It's Monday today, so Sunday night. There was a lot of talk coming out about this long-term deal, and people were speculating it's a 4-year contract. We've got a good one. We've got 3, which I think, depending on what happens, could be more, could be less. We don't know. But it's a 3-year deal, Ryan. And Rodgers, in the talk and the rumours are, has apparently put together a plan, a vision, a 5-year plan to take Celtic back to a European final, what has been quoted in the media. Now, if you're not a Celtic fan, you laugh at that straight away. I don't blame you. We can't win a knockout game, never mind get to a final. But you've got to sit down for a minute here, Ryan, and go, this is for real this time. Like, the backing, if Rodgers is coming back after the reasons that he apparently left, and if he's putting together a 5-year plan to get to a European final, I think the backing is going to be quite scary.
Yeah, those first couple of signings are going to set the benchmark. I think you're really going to see what level we're playing at. I think we break our transfer record this summer. I think we bring in somebody of a real quality.
I wonder, see, when you talk about that, I wonder who or where it will be. Like, it's because obviously it's not my job to scout players, so I don't know who we're going to go for. But I think we'll smash it over the next year or two, the transfer record. But I'm like, who on? That's
an interesting one.
It is, because I think it was easy with Edouard because we knew who we were getting, because he was here on loan for a year.
Before you buy with him as well.
Yeah, and it's like, see if we did it with the likes of Jota or Carter Vickers, I think nobody would have complained. But like, I think Celtic fans would have happily seen us splash 10, 15 million pounds on any of those two players. But now it's like, if we do smash that, it's going to be someone we've probably not seen. But Rodgers is coming in now, right, in a better position than he was the first time, because he's coming in with now more Premier League experience, Premier League success. He's worked with other names in the game. His pool is far greater than it was when he came in 2016.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think now you look at the sort of bigger signings that we've had recently. You look at Jota and Carter Vickers. I think the big signings now need to be the normal signings for Celtic. Those are the players that we need to bring in. We need to bring maybe 3 or 4 of them a window. Maybe not break the transfer record on one player, but spread it out so that we're getting good positions. You want us to have a Carter Vickers at centre back, but you also want one at a left back and a right back. You want players that we can rely on. If one of those players is out, then another player can come in. Jota's a designated player for us. We don't know how long he's going to stay for. Hopefully it's another season or 2. We can get the best out of him.
Yeah.
I know we'll get on to players that can probably improve under Rodgers. It's really weird saying Rodgers. I need to get used to that. I was so close to saying Postecoglou there.
A good while, man.
No. But yeah, there's players like that. We need to be signing players. I think 5-6.5 million. Yes, if you can get a bargain down the line for a player that we know is going to be good, then that's great.
Go for it.
You need to speculate to accumulate with these players.
Yeah, and
you will make the money back.
If the aim is to go far in Europe, then I think that you've got to look at the past. So let's go back 15 years here, right? And we go to the last 15 years and we look at our European success, which has been pretty much nothing. Apart from the odd big win, Barcelona, Manchester United, we've had big wins, but we've not done actually anything successful in regards to, getting close to even a final over the last 15 years. And why is that? Maybe it's because we have only been kind of shopping in and around bargains exclusively. Yeah, we've made the odd big one, Edouard, for example, Vickers, Jota, but in the grand scheme of things, a lot of our signings are cheaper, they're maybe bargains, older players, younger players who haven't quite established themselves yet either. They're not the kind of players that probably take you to a European final. So is that part of the mentality change that you think Brendan Rodgers might want moving forward as part of this guarantee, you could say?
I think he'll have been asked for assurances with regards to that, because we know a couple of signings that didn't happen. I think there was 3 names in particular: Castagne, John McGinn, and was it Piccini that went? Yeah, that was at Sporting Lisbon. Those were 3. I know. There's 3 players that went to Valencia, I'm sure, as well.
I guess you can extend that a wee bit further with the whole Ivan Toney thing. I know that wasn't at Rodgers, but similar kind of situation.
It's still a pattern of managers that just aren't getting back. That aren't the best people aren't getting brought in. We're trying to sort of skimp a wee bit and getting the lesser play. You've seen that with Ayeti. I know he started well, but his true colours came in very quickly. That he wasn't.
And Tony's true colours came out very quickly as well.
Yeah,
I don't mean the betting stuff. I mean his actual footballing ability.
That would have caught up with us too, because
it's true. Aye.
So maybe Ayeti was the right deal. I don't know, but I'm not even going to give them the credit for that one.
But you're right. Yeah, the patterns are there.
You've got to. I think for us, we've got to sign players before these mid teams do it, like Benfica, Porto, Leipzig. We've got to identify.
These mid?
I'm not meaning mid as in size. Some of them are really, really big teams, but in terms of European stature, they're not a Real Madrid, they're not a Man City. Man City are up there now, that's unfortunate, but that's where they are. Man United, Liverpool. You need to beat these teams to the signature. You need to make Celtic such an attractive prospect for them to come to, instead of these teams that maybe the fact that they will get guaranteed game time if they go here. You'll get that sort of pathway into the Premier League, because I've seen that managers now go down to the Premier League from the Scottish League.
Yeah.
That is a big pathway, and that will be for future managers as well. I don't want to talk about future managers. We've just got a manager.
I
through the door.
think the fact that Postecoglou, to bring him back into it for a second here, Postecoglou's move to Spurs could be one of the biggest things to happen to Celtic in relation to someone moving on in a long, long time. You know, like
It's massive.
that's a huge. That is genuine. I don't think amongst all of the madness of us losing him, looking for a new manager and all of what comes with that, I don't think we've actually sat down for a second and went, that's actually a pretty big deal. Like, that's a top six England side.
Arguably the biggest day in Australian football
Yeah,
history.
exactly. And I don't think that we've properly analysed that because of the search we've now been on. But that's the kind of thing I'm talking about, that you're talking about, Ryan, and saying that, you know, if a player can look on at Ange getting that move to Spurs, and then maybe look at some of what our future players are going to maybe do next, then surely this is a team that can maybe beat other sides to signatures. Like that's a possibility now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Brendan Rodgers gives you that sort of aura as well, and that prestige for players. Players will want to play under Brendan Rodgers. They'll have watched, even at Leicester, players improve, such as Harvey Barnes, James Maddison. He does improve young players. Players coming into the club, they need that pathway. They need to see the development. All of a sudden, players are more intelligent than what they were. They listen to what managers are saying. They listen to what pundits are saying as well. They'll know coming into the club that Brendan Rodgers is a player that can excel them and take them on to the next level. I think that's so important to have a guy like that at the helm of the club. And just going back, just a final thing about Postecoglou. I don't want to talk about him too much, but I do genuinely hope he does well down there.
Oh, same,
it's important
absolutely.
for Celtic that he does do well, because
It looks good on us.
It does. It looks great on us because
Yeah.
we took the chance, and now Spurs are taking the chance, but they've got a wee bit more proof that it's worked, because it worked at Celtic. It could have easily flopped at Celtic, and then he wouldn't have another job. He'd probably go back to Australia or Japan or the likes. The fact he's made it to England means that he's done a great job at Celtic, and I hope he pushes on and does well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's no longer my manager. The only one I'd really care about is Rodgers, but I agree. I think
mad,
that
innit?
Ange's doing good.
Rodgers the manager again.
I know. I genuinely, you could
I
be right.
cannot believe this.
I mean, happy.
So am I.
I'm very happy, but it's just, wow.
Not everybody's happy though.
No, and we're going to save that for the next segment, because the one thing that I did want to talk about before we move on completely from signings and players and recruitment and all the rest of it, and this was something that we discussed in our live stream today. We've all been very quick to assume that some players might leave the club this summer. There's obviously been people linked with moves, not saying they'll go, but you look at Hatate, he's been linked with moves. O'Reilly, he's been linked with moves. Even God, there's even been talk about Kyogo being linked with moves. Abada. One thing we spoke about in my live stream today, Ryan, I'm keen to hear your opinion, is Rodgers is that good a manager. Do you think that some heads might actually change? Do you think there's some players that might go, maybe I'll hold on another year. Maybe I'll see what it's like under Brendan Rodgers, because as we've just talked about, he's an elite level manager. So maybe some people will be like, maybe I'm not as quick to get out the door here.
Don't even need to look at the playing squad. Look at the assistant manager. He was ready to go to Spurs.
Very good point.
And
We even spoke about that.
He ain't going anywhere. Nobody's going anywhere.
Yeah.
It's very much. It's another intervention by Dermot Desmond. It's good. It's good when he shows this. It's good that he's still very much invested in it all. He could have easily just got some throwaway manager. Could have got anybody from that list. There's some names on that list that I just would not have.
Remember Sky Germany were saying that we'd spoke to Daniel Farke, for example. Like, where the fuck did that come from?
I know.
And that's how easy it could have been, though. And that's nothing, no disrespect to Daniel Farke, because I really like him as a guy, and I think he's a quality coach as well. But it could have been anybody, Ryan.
Yeah, just going back to that point that you made, players will want to stay because of Brendan Rodgers.
Yeah.
Brendan Rodgers is the sort of guy that you want to play under, because you know that his man management. Take it from the former Rangers manager, Steven Gerrard. He said he's the best man manager that he's ever worked with as a player. You know, I'm not one to give a Rangers player or a Rangers manager props, but I'll take his word for it that he did play under some really, really good managers.
Yeah.
Look at Benitez, Houllier,
Gerrard,
etc.
Houllier.
I can't remember who was the Man City man. I'm getting mixed up with Frank.
Dalglish.
I'm getting mixed up with Frank Lampard. That is terrible.
How are you going to say?
Whoever he played for under Man City, Frank Lampard, but I've got the two mixed up.
Right.
But it just goes to show you that he does have a pull factor. Brendan Rodgers, players will want to stay. I look at guys like O'Reilly, I look at guys like Abada, they'll want to play under Rodgers. I don't think they'll go anywhere unless a silly bid comes in,
Yeah,
or
I
unless
think
they're desperate to
if
leave.
the money's right for both the club and the player, then I completely understand it. Like, yeah, they might want to move on. And it's not like, people might be saying, oh, so they would never wanted to play under Ange. And I'm like, no, I don't think it's as black and white as that. I think they would have just been like, right, I've played here for 2 years under Ange, ready to move on. But now there's something fresh coming in. There's a lot of money that may be getting pumped in. And there's something there, there's an incentive to sit there and say, right, I could do some serious damage here with the Celtic side. Why don't I stick it out for another year? Because, and we'll probably talk about this in weeks to come, and depending on who stays, who goes. But I look at someone like O'Reilly, and he will feast under Brendan Rodgers. He will be nuts under Brendan Rodgers.
In my top 3 or 4 players that I'm really excited to see.
Yeah, same. Said it last night in my stream. I was like,
I think we should make that a main talking point. We should talk about players that are going to improve under Brendan Rodgers.
We'll get into that. We'll talk about
Is that on the list?
But there's no list, really. I'm just kind of going with the flow here.
Because I could talk for a good 10 minutes on how good Matt O'Reilly's going to be under
Brendan
Rodgers.
We'll get into that in a minute, because there's so much ground to cover in regards to, God, this is only beginning. And I'm assuming that the next few weeks will be full of talking points and
reinvigoration, though. That's the thing, because we were at a point where that was the summer. We would maybe hear about a couple of signings here and there, but all of a sudden there seems to be more interest now because there's a new manager at the helm.
Yep.
There's an elite manager at the helm. Not to say that the one that's left isn't elite, or he's getting there. I think he's still got a ways to go before he becomes that elite manager that we think he can be. Brendan Rodgers is one already. He's done it down south. He's done it up here.
I keep forgetting how young Rodgers is as well. I mean,
he's only 50.
50. Like, what? Ange is coming up 60. I mean, Ange is 58, 59 years old. I mean, that's 9 years is younger than him. It's madness. I think people forget. When he first came to Celtic, he was only, 45? Younger than 45. Mm-hmm. Like, that's nuts. Like, it feels like he's just been constantly 50 or something. But
he's one of those guys that's looked old for a long time. The fact that he'll just age gracefully, or he'll hardly age at all.
When he would have broke through with Swansea,
2010, 2011.
What age would he have been then? Like, you take 13. You'd have been about 35.
Mm-hmm. He was a very young manager.
Like, that's mad, isn't it?
He's even younger when he was at Reading and stuff.
Aye. I think that's one thing that always went against Rodgers, wasn't it? That he got that chance at Liverpool so quickly, and they weren't ready. And you could maybe argue Rodgers wasn't ready. Maybe he needed that move to Celtic at the time to kind of find himself tactically and the pressure of dealing with a big side. Maybe that's where he learned it at Celtic, but we're beyond all of that now. I mean, that's years ago.
Yeah. I still think he's got that one big move ahead of him, though, as well. I think this is a great point in his career that he can rebuild. Mm-hmm. I still think he's got that big English job in him as well.
I probably will.
And that's
good.
But
we're not talking about that yet.
No, but this is the thing, and this is important.
No amateur runner yet.
No, I know, but this is important. The Celtic fans know that now.
Yeah.
They didn't know that the first time around because they get whispered sweet nothings into their ear for 2.5 years. Now we know what Rodgers is like. We know what he's capable of. That's why fans are a bit wary. But if he wins football matches, people will be delighted. We're a fickle bunch. If he wins games, we will be happy.
Nice segue, because that's where I wanted to take us next. And it's the point we've not even spoke about on this entire stream. And it could be the most obvious thing to speak about, his first departure and the sour taste that was left in the mouth of Celtic fans. I think that over the past 2 weeks, Ryan, there has been a massive swing in the people who were totally against it to now on side with it. I think... And you can't... Social media isn't real life, right? You can only take social media with a pinch of salt. But if you go off social media, I would go as far as to say a vast majority have been swayed. And a lot of people now are just like, you know what? Wasn't my first choice. Might not have wanted it ideally, but I'll take it and we'll back him. I think that's the kind of impression I'm getting from most people online. But there certainly is people who are still unhappy, right? Mm-hmm. And that's understandable. I think everyone is more than entitled to their own opinion. But how quickly do you think it is a case of just winning games and then everyone will be on side?
Be interesting to see the press conference on Friday. I think that's the start.
Is Friday being confirmed? I see they said later in the week.
The record sort of confirmed it's Friday, so they'll have obviously got word that was when their journalists have to go to Celtic Park, so it's pretty much confirmed that will be the case. It will be interesting to see what tact he sort of goes, what sort of way that he spins the story almost. He could take it in a number of ways. He could say, look, I know what I done was wrong. He could come out and grovel.
Do you want my opinion? I don't think he should. And it might piss people off. It will piss people off.
I think it'll piss people off regardless of what he does.
I don't think that he should sit there and lie. I don't think he should sit there and be disrespectful. I don't think he has to rub it in our faces that he done it. But if I was Brendan Rodgers, I'd just sit there and go, listen, It was a good offer. It was a good time for me and my family. It was the right thing to do for my career. It was what it was. And then get on with it and move on. Because there's no point lying about it.
This is the thing. As long as he reiterates the point, I'm back now.
Yeah.
Like, I could have chose to sit it out for a year. He was choosing to sit it out for a year. He was willing to take a year's sabbatical and then see what the market was like with regards to managerial jobs. Something's changed. Something has been said to him that has brought him back from probably the shortest sabbatical I've ever heard in my life.
When was it? Was it February or something he got sacked? March?
April.
It was as late as April.
April 2nd.
Wow.
Leicester really did hang on.
Yeah.
I think that was due to the sort of severance package that they were mooted to be sort of spending to get Rodgers away. That's what happens when you give a guy a big deal.
And that's another. And look, there's no point in sitting here and going like, "Well, I don't think he's going to run on that quickly," because it just sounds daft and naive after he'd done it before. But there's genuinely no reason for him to run or go anywhere anytime soon. He's just made millions from his sacking at Leicester. He's now getting an opportunity to mend a relationship which looked to be broken and gone, and he's got a chance to do something with the club he loves. I don't think that there's anything necessarily pointing to me in the direction of like, oh, we should be ready for him to go at the end of this season or anything beyond that. I guess we'll just take it with time, but all the things right now are sitting in place to be more hopeful, I would say, at least.
I think Brendan Rodgers is probably the most egotistical manager we've ever had.
Yes.
I don't think there's any controversy in saying that. But that has its positives. I think he's back to fix that, to fix the reputation he had with the fans. Between that and the fact he wants to rebuild his career a wee bit, yes, it went down. That relegation will annoy him, even though the relegation isn't solely on him. The fact that Dean Smith took the job and then they went down, a large majority of it is on him. That will still be on his sort of record that he was part of that team that brought him down.
Yep.
He'll be wanting to rebuild his career. He's now looked upon almost unfavourably down south, so he's going to have to mend that, and the only way he can mend that, because they don't care about the domestic league up here, they care about European results, and if he can get European results, he'll get back to where he probably wants to be. I don't mind Celtic being that, because
whoever we got, if they were a success, it was going to. This is why it doesn't bother me.
This is the landscape now.
People are like, oh, you want Rodgers to come back and use this for 2 years and then move on, and I'm like, I wouldn't word it like
when
that.
It's a player.
I wouldn't word it like that. But you've got to accept the reality now. That's a good manager at Celtic. Any manager who comes in and delivers treble after treble, which is, don't lie, what we all want. As soon as a manager does that, they're going to be off and they're going to be going to a bigger team. The days of extended stays for managers at Celtic are probably gone, unless you know the only person realistically that I could see doing it again in the near future would be Scott Brown, if he ever gets the Celtic job. He's the only one I could see doing it. Apart from him, if we got Knutson, Ryan, are you telling me that if he'd done well after 2 years, he'd still be here 3 years? No. Same with Maresca, gone. All of these guys, if they came in and done what Ange's done, the same pathways would be given to them, as it will with Brendan Rodgers, probably. The
only difference with Brendan Rodgers' departure is the timing. That's it, because Postecoglou done the same thing. Done the exact same thing. He actually got a better job out of it, because Tottenham's a better job than Leicester. I know in terms of league position, definitely, but in terms of club size as well, I think Tottenham are on a different ballpark to Leicester, so it just shows you that sort of improvement and the sort of standard that Celtic, or the sort of stature that Celtic have now. The fact that Tottenham went and got our boss off of us, but you know, it's actually worked out alright, because we'll get Brendan Rodgers back, so we'll take it.
Couldn't have worked any better. The last thing I want to touch on before we kind of move it, we'll get into like the Q&A after our last couple of talking points and such. But one thing that I did want to talk about, and I don't want to go into it too deeply, because I'm not one for trying to cause stirs or anything like that. I just try to go by and enjoy the football the way it is. But obviously there's been a lot, and people will ask us and people will comment about this, so I may as well talk about it. And I think there's plenty of questions on it as well.
Probably, yeah.
The post the North Curve put up, minutes after the announcement was made, they put up the picture of the banner, the always a fraud, never a sale. Can't remember the exact wording now. You know the banner we're talking about. Obviously that has caused a lot of controversy online. In fact, I don't know what the numbers are looking like now, but the last time I checked, it had just as many quote retweets as it did likes. There was that much that folk wanted to say about it. I'll make my piece very, very, very quick. I think everybody's entitled to their opinion. And I think you should be able to make that opinion as loud as you like, whether you're for or against the appointment of Brendan Rodgers. It wouldn't be fair for me to sit here on a podcast and say, oh, I love him to bits, I'm glad he's back, and then as soon as somebody says I'm not glad he's back, I say, no, you can't say that, shut up. You know, I that's not fair. I think that's perfectly entitled. But what I will say is, I just hope that going forward into the first games of the season, that isn't reflected in the atmosphere at Celtic Park. I would like us to, even if you are against Brendan Rodgers, forget that for a moment and think about getting behind the team and getting behind Celtic the way we always do, because I think that's the way that we should be going about it, rather than, you know, I don't know what's going to happen. It's just a post. It might not even need that much reading into it. You know, it's just a kind of a voicing their opinion through that photograph. That's all it is, really. But I just hope that moving forward, Ryan, it doesn't create any sort of civil war between Celtic supporters.
I don't think it will.
Nah.
I've got to be honest. I think it's just a showing of, basically maybe like a reminder of how he left. I think it's just a wee timely reminder from the Green Brigade and the North Curve. I think by the time we're all pulling in the same direction, once the first game of the season comes around, we'll all be in the same boat.
Mm-hmm.
We'll all be roading Rodgers and the rest of the team on to more successes and more victories, because that's what we're used to, and that only works when everybody's together. Everybody's entitled to their own opinion. I don't personally agree with that, with the way that they've put it out like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I would never ever question people's opinions, because there's no right or wrong answer. You can't tell people how to think at the end of the day, and that's a collective. They've probably okayed it with the majority of the group before putting it out, and I don't suspect for a minute that there won't be division in that. There'll be some fans that are happy that are back.
Yeah,
that won't speak for every single one of them,
yeah.
because that's just very unlikely.
I know. The odds of all, you know, I don't know how many members are part of the North Curve, those supporters associations. I don't know how many people are in it for it, but there's probably got to be one at least who doesn't side with that opinion. What
I will say is they're very, very important to the atmosphere.
Yeah,
of the
they
overall
are. And that's the thing, you know,
we need that.
These guys are I've always given them credit on the channel, and people have always, you know, in the comments said, you know, certain things about the Green Brigade and the North Curve and yada yada, but you know, their charity work's spot on, and 100% of the time, not 100% of the time, not 100% of the time is what I meant to say, but the majority of the time I'm agreeing with a lot of the stuff that they do. They do a fantastic job setting up the tifos and all the rest of it at Celtic Park. Just you know, obviously voicing an opinion, but you know, I know a lot of people were asking in the Twitter questions what our thoughts and
There's one in
such.
particular that's really big for the talking point with regards to the questions, because of another banner that they put up.
Yeah.
Before.
I know, is that the one? It was
Yeah,
like
back 'em or
lose 'em.
10 isn't a project.
We're Celtic supporters. Whether you're part of any organisation or whatnot, we're all fickle as fuck. You know, we all change our opinions like the weather, and that's what's going to happen in the course of this management.
You haven't changed your opinion over Brendan Rodgers, though. That's it. That's been the one constant almost. You've been undying in your support for Brendan Rodgers, and do you know what? You've manifested it into reality.
I thought manifesting didn't exist, but here it is.
Certainly.
It does. And
You've done your rosary.
I've took flack for it over the years, but it feels worth it now. I remember, like, I've knocked my mic off. There we go. I've still got this vision. I can see it in my head. It was like, so it would have been the COVID season, which was starting August 2020, wasn't it? And it must have got my mic keeps like cutting it. There we go. It must have been like February 2021, and like I was steaming one night, and I was like, fuck this, I'm posting a video about Brendan Rodgers, and I posted that Many Men compilation, and like, you know, a good few folks seen the funny side of it, having a laugh, but I got some amount of abuse for it, like, he's a rat, he's a snake. I was like, I don't even care, bring him back. And here we are.
He's back.
Feels nice.
Do you know what? You're 1 for 2 because of your Barcast sort of story. So you'll probably take that 50% hit rate.
Do you know what it'll do me? Right, Ryan, I'm going to pass the torch to you before we get on to Twitter questions, because we've not got quizzes today, obviously. It's only the two of us, so there'd be no point in quizzing each other. So I'm going to let Ryan bring up any talking points that you would like to, so feel free.
I think we could talk for a wee bit about the players that most needed this change of management. I think we could talk about that. I've talked about it a bit in some of the pieces that I've wrote recently. Players that would improve under Brendan Rodgers, because we've been under the assumption that he would be the manager for a good week or so. We've been waiting for that announcement to happen, but now that we've got that, we can really start planning. Look, I thought we could maybe look at the existing squad, maybe look at players that maybe down on their luck recently with regards to the team, and see if they will improve next season under Brendan Rodgers. I think we could sort of both nominate players who we think
Yeah, I've got ones in my head straight away, man. Like we've already spoken
It's
about.
not even players that have been down on their luck, to be honest.
Yeah,
It's
but
players that can maybe
players
go
that
up
can
a
take it a
level.
level further.
Yeah.
Because Matt O'Reilly, for example,
That's a big one for
he's
me.
the big one that stood out, I think, to most people. Like on the stream last night, I got asked the question. I thought it was quite funny because they asked the question. They said, "Who do you think?" I said, "Matt O'Reilly. I think he'll take up a level. I think he'll do like an Armstrong. We know he's a good player, but we'll get another level out of him and yada yada." And then 2 minutes later, after the stream was done, I went on Twitter and I seen you and a host of other people talking about what O'Reilly could do. And I was like, "Well, we're all thinking the same thing." And I think he's just an obvious one, isn't he, Ryan? Because I think with the style that we know Brendan Rodgers likes to play, someone in his position and someone with his ability, with his technical prowess, you could say, he could be magic for Brendan.
The one thing that was holding Rogic back, I remember, in his first season under Brendan Rodgers, and it was only really Postecoglou that got the best out of him in terms of fitness. He seemed to have a programme that seemed to work for him more than other managers.
Yeah.
They just couldn't get the most out of Rogic. He was such an enigma of a player, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Difficult to get going, but once you've got him going, you know he's going to be playing really well. With Matt O'Reilly, you know that the fitness is there.
Yeah.
His defensive stats, his sort of running stats are absolutely brilliant. He does put a shift in. He doesn't look like he puts a shift in.
Yeah.
The numbers are there. He does running. He runs for the team. If he can just up his numbers just a wee bit in terms of goals and maybe not even assists, because he got 14 last season. But
Did he finish with the most in the league? Or was,
yeah. Which was it was called by a lot of fans quite a down season for him when his numbers for assists anyway were absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
His pressurising off the ball is brilliant. He might not need to do as much pressurising because the pressing might not be as much in this Rodgers team. We've not even spoken about that, the fact that there'll be a positional change unless he does go with the inverted fullbacks, which I know he flirted with at Leicester until Pereira got injured. Then he totally threw away that idea. I done a wee bit of reading. It was like a week before the season started. Pereira get injured. He's so focal to their fullbacks.
Yeah.
Once he got injured, he chucked it away and was playing. He's playing his traditional style. But I think there is so much untapped potential with Matt O'Reilly. If he stays for another couple of seasons, Celtic could make a lot of money off of him.
And one point that I only dawned on me this morning, or I can't remember when exactly in the day it was, doesn't matter, but one thing, do you remember, like, there was, when O'Reilly first came in, I think it was at the end of last season, there was talk that Leicester were looking at him. Do you remember that?
I do, yeah.
So, like, if there was any truth in that, and I'd imagine there was probably a smidgen of it, then Brendan Rodgers must have, you know, some sort of inkling into what he's getting with O'Reilly, and he must be interested in him as a player, if there's any truth in that story.
Between that and the fact he's a Celtic fan as well, I'm presuming he still watches at least the highlights of the games. He certainly needs to now. He needs to watch the actual games.
I know he
he's
needs to go back and watch the past 2 years.
I know. But I think O'Reilly's a really good player to work with because he's still, 22? He's still basically a baby in his career. He's getting recognised by the Danish national team. I don't know if he got a cap for them yet. I don't think he did. But
I don't think
he was training with, there was a picture with Højbjerg.
Him and Højbjerg, guy.
I don't want him anywhere near Spurs at the moment, you know. But I think there is so much to come from him.
Yeah.
Rodgers knows how to work with attacking midfielders. He's shown it in basically everywhere that he's been.
Yep.
Coutinho, Rogic, James Maddison.
You could even say Armstrong, couldn't
Armstrong as well. Armstrong's numbers in that first season, he scored something like 17 goals.
Yeah.
He's basically like another striker for us. Rogic too, he scored 12 goals. The amount of goals that we'll get from midfield is going to be so important next season, but we've got wingers as well that scored goals. I think we'll probably go on to talk about wingers that will do well under Rodgers.
That's where I was going to go next, because I've seen a lot of people suggesting, and you know, I don't want to always just bring him up because he's my favourite, but I genuinely think this could be a huge opportunity for Haxa. I think this could be massive for Haxa. I think he could thrive under Rodgers,
either out wide or in the number 10.
Yeah, because I don't want to break hearts, and I don't want to get slagged for this because I don't think it's even necessarily true.
He goes, he's going to slag El Yunusi.
No, it's not. I'm not slagging anyone. But do you worry for Maida?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because he's a system player, he's a Postecoglou player.
He's a Postecoglou player. And I don't know, and I think he's top quality, I love him. And I don't think he's just going to get binned automatically because Rodgers is in. But I think there's a massive chance for Haxa maybe to be a new favourite on that left-hand side if Maida doesn't work as effectively as what he did in the Postecoglou system. I don't want to jump in two-footed and say, like, Maida's not going to work for Rodgers. I don't want to sound like a nerd, you know. I don't want to be like, he's not going to work, because he might work. but I just think that the odds are maybe more in favour of him being the Ange player. And then maybe someone like Hacks are getting the chance because he has that ability technically. But cause we can all be growing ups here and say Maeda's not the most technically gifted player in the world.
I don't think he's a great football player.
Yeah, he's not
a good athlete.
Yeah, he's not the most technically gifted player in the world. Whereas someone like Haxa, when he's fit, we've seen what he can do with the ball at his feet. So I think it could be a huge chance for Haxa coming up. The angles might have changed a wee bit. Sorry for the dramatic cut off. The camera lost memory. So what were you saying, Ryan?
Yeah. So I was just talking about the fact that Jota, we assume that Jota is going to play in the right wing, but I don't think so. I think he'll be playing in the left because Maeda was playing on the left hand side to or Jota was playing at the right hand side rather to accommodate Maeda on the left hand side. Mm-hmm. That work rate might not be needed anymore because you might get the work rate in the midfield instead or the defence. So I think you might see a positional change and Jota plays on his favoured side, which is only good news for Celtic going forward, I would say.
Yeah, I think it's a good point actually, because I think we've all just forgotten that Jota is naturally a left winger because
he's out of position.
He's been playing the right, and it's mad because Jota's a player who I think gets the credit he deserves and the respect he deserves, but at the same time, a lot of people always go, "Oh, he's not doing enough. He's this, that, next thing." I'm like, well, and then at the time you're always like, "Well, he isn't playing on his side. To be fair, he's playing on the right, so maybe a move to the left is back on the cards for Jota. Maybe that is actually something that Brendan Rodgers will consider. Mm-hmm. It might be a plausible option, and I think that it might get the best out of Jota, which should be probably a priority for Rodgers.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Jota's numbers over the last 2 seasons. If he can go up a level, we could see him hitting 25, 30 goals a season. I think he's got
25, 30 million in the price tag.
Yeah, pretty much. The thing about Jota, and I'm not going to slag him or anything or bring him down, I think he lacks that yard of pace to really make it in the Premier League, which is why it's so enjoyable to watch him play. He's so much better than everybody else in Scotland. I think he lacks that killer pace that a lot of wingers need down south. Now I know players like Mahrez have done well, etc. But I just think he's just such a great player, and it's such a great fit for Celtic as well, having that sort of player at Celtic. And I don't know where I'm going with this point, but I just want Jota to stay as long as he can.
It was obviously, we started on fucking Hacks and we've ended up here. I'll let you go, Ryan. Any players that for you, we've spoke about O'Reilly both at the same time. I've kind of spoke on Hacks. You kind of spoke on Jota technically, but is there any other players that you think we should keep an eye out for improving under Rodgers?
Alistair Johnson as well. I don't think he's as comfortable with the inverted fullback role. Still remains to be seen whether or not Brendan Rodgers actually plays with the inverted fullbacks. I know we've made that point before, but he looks more comfortable when he does the traditional fullback role, when he's running it opposition, sort of being physical. That's his game. I think there's another couple of levels to go for Alistair Johnson. I think he could be a top player. Look at the work that Brendan Rodgers done with Kieran Tierney.
Do you know what's mad? Like through his whole time at Celtic, Brendan Rodgers, the whole 2.5 years, like he had Lustig on that right hand side, and like we all loved Lustig, but I think that was one of those positions where like, we need to improve. It was getting to that point where Lustig was getting that little bit older. It's like, right, that's one of the positions that needs to improve if Rodgers does want to succeed in Europe, because Lustig's just too slow or whatever and not physical enough. Now he's got a Johnson to work with, which is very exciting. I
think Juranovic would have been a good fit for him as well, just in that traditional role, but it's getting to the point he would have been sold anyway because he's 28, coming up in 29. You need to sell players when they're at that age, especially out wide, when they rely so much on their brute pace. So having Johnson as a 24-year-old willing to learn, that's great for us. It's great for Brendan Rodgers as well.
It's going to be exciting just watching all these players under Rodgers, because it's like a hybrid, isn't it? Because like we always spoke about combining Ange and Rodgers' team. Technically, both of them are his team now, aren't they? Like,
we'll see it now, basically. A Postecoglou team under Brendan Rodgers. It's going to be interesting. I think that's one thing that we'll see. We'll see a more... What's the sort of word for that? A more mature side, I would say, because I think a lot of the football that we played under Postecoglou could be quite chaotic, and we'd like to sort of overflow places, whereas this one is going to be more measured, I think. And we'll take more shots from outside the box. How many shots did we score from outside the box with a Brendan Rodgers team? Absolutely loads.
Yeah, true.
It's going to be
Didn't think about that.
Yeah, it's going to be
I
a
love
shot.
a
on
long
his-
shot, me, you know.
So do I.
can tell my
So does
love him so
Haxa. Haxa loves
Yeah.
a long shot. I mean, if he's up for it next season, he puts the work in. I think he could be a favourite under Rodgers.
I'm in the grill.
Yeah.
Aye.
I could
be
at the same
iconic.
time, at the same time, I can see Brendan Rodgers just looking at him, being, he'll be on the first plane back.
You say steady one more time, you'll be on the first plane
Sayed.
back.
It won't even be Haxa. Sayed.
You did say steady. Right, well, right, I don't know if there's any more talking points. You just want to get to Twitter questions.
I think we've covered a lot of bases, and the thing is, we don't want to cover every single
Because
base
we're going to
we'll
get
have
through
enough.
so much here the next few weeks. Like next week alone, we'll be, reacting to what Brendan said and yada 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 and this, that, and the next thing. I was gonna play him at send. Surely we can fit Matt O'Reilly into that somehow. Nah, we
That's why we
can't.
sing this song for Matt O'Reilly. No,
Nah, it doesn't work. It was a good chant when we had it. we'll let it rest.
Brendan Rodgers is here for Taylor and O.
I've seen that.
That is
aye, I've seen
absolutely
that.
brilliant.
Here's
And the
for Taylor and O.
Last Christmas one is great as well.
I've
I
seen
want.
that.
Hopefully, we're in a healing process, and by the time Christmas time comes,
We're all in the same
we're
page.
all in the same boat, and the Green Brigade are singing that. Fingers crossed.
Yes.
It'll be a Christmas miracle if that's the case.
Right, you load up Twitter and
Load it up, mate.
we'll get our Twitter questions sorted just now. On this, I'm going to use this brief wee moment of transition over to Twitter to put out an advert basically to the one and only AJ Celtic, who supplies me with all my brilliant, I've never knocked my mic off again. My brilliant, beautiful stickers for the back of my laptop. And at this moment in time, I would like to beg of you, the guys at AJ Celtic, for some Brendan Rodgers stickers, please. It's time to move on. There's a few of these that will have to go. I've got Ryan, for example, here we've got Ange.
Ange's got to go.
With his fist up in the sky. But it's time for him to go, innit?
Yeah.
Ange. He'll need to be covered up. He'll have to be replaced by
Obviously,
Brendan.
with the great news yesterday that Peter Drury is doing Premier League
That's right.
commentary. He's definitely going to do the Greek God in London, isn't he?
Oh, yeah.
And it's going to hurt a wee bit, but
Aye.
I'm so glad that Peter
What an
Drury's-
upgrade, eh?
Martin Tyler for Peter.
What an upgrade.
I mean, it's like Postecoglou for Rodgers.
All due respect to Martin Tyler, because
Maybe.
I know it's off topic, it's not Celtic related, but all due respect to Martin Tyler, because he is one of the greatest commentators of all time. There's no doubt about it.
Truly one of the greats.
Truly one of the greats, but it's just got to that point now where, retire, big man.
He's a wee old dog now, isn't he?
Aye,
he's a wee old,
it's
he's
just
showing his
it's
age
just
now.
not the same.
Take it to
Can't
the
lie.
vets.
Can't lie.
But do you know, there's a good young influx of commentators coming in.
Aye, me.
I do like Seb as
I've
well.
got a degree now.
Aye.
Who's Seb?
Seb Hutchinson. I like
What
him.
one's that?
I'm not actually sure, but I know.
You're not actually.
No, I'm not sure, but I know what he sounds like,
Aye.
and I like him.
Right. Okay. I like Fletch. I think he's good.
I like him when he's not commentating on English teams. When he commentates on English teams.
Aye,
Are you meaning Darren Fletcher?
Who do you
Aye.
think I was talking about? Bloody Stevie Fletcher.
No, imagine Stephen Fletcher. No, he's fine when he's not.
Nah, I know what you mean. I agree.
The bias comes in.
yeah,
Maybe I associate him with Steve McManaman, and there is no.
No, I
qualities
get
about
that.
him.
I do, because I can. That's what I was about to say. I know he does a lot of people's heads in, but I just think he's the best. The best commentators all work for Match of the Day. They all work for Match of the Day. They're the best commentators.
I suppose, yeah. Jonathan Pierce.
I love the Match of the Day commentators, man. I miss Monty, man. He was just... Anyway, what a question. So I'm getting carried away here. Two you graduated students, we could be commentating soon. Who knows?
Can you imagine?
Give me a job. Come on, Sky. Date it for Desmond.
You'll be on that Saturday social. You'll be the Celtic correspondent on that.
They'll never have a Scottish football YouTuber on that. Nah.
But you never know. They might turn around and do a Scottish show based on that as well. I think it'd be great.
Keep dreaming.
I'm a dreamer. I'm a eternal dreamer.
Right.
Matthew, but obviously we've seen the photo. What's your thoughts on this? Was it right or wrong, and will it cause a divide in the support? And it was Russell's tweet. They called it and then got upset by it. Move on and back him in the team. It was everyone's entitled to an opinion for me.
Yeah. I for one couldn't give two fucks. Like, it doesn't bother me. But I don't know. Like, my opinion is I just want Rodgers to come in and win. And if he does that, I don't know. Like, I just don't want anything to be affected in the grounds when we're there and when we're backing a team. That's ultimately all I can ask for. Like, that's it. I think throwing around pictures on social media is going to get nobody anywhere. So let's save it for on the park, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting, that testimonial, isn't it? See what the sort of first stage is.
Aye.
I do want to go to that now, and I didn't want to before. Well, I probably would have ended up going anyway. But I'm more interested now that it's Brendan Rodgers in charge. It's terrible. I would have been interested under Postecoglou.
For Jamesy.
I know.
For Jamesy, I say like legend.
I'm going for Brendan. It's Brendan's homecoming. It's not a testimonial. It's Brendan's homecoming.
Maybe Brendan won't manage it.
What? Who would manage it then?
Putting on Neil Lennon.
So
What a summer that would be, yeah? Neil Lennon and Brendan Rodgers returning to the Celtic dugout in the same week. What a fucking week that would be.
Like that reactor in Switzerland or whatever, the two things.
Uh-huh.
That's what it would be like. We've had a lot of Northern Irish managers. It's quite him.
Martin O'Neill, Neil Lennon,
That's free.
Brendan Rodgers. Who's the last Republic of Ireland? Would it have been Miller? No Miller. Who am I talking about? No Miller. Brady. Miller.
Brady was English, I'm sure.
Was he? No, he wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
Brady was Irish. Do you know? If I made a fool of myself on this podcast.
Liam Brady.
Aye.
Well, he played for Ireland. He was born in Ireland as
Aye,
well.
there you go. Make me look like a fucking dafty.
Sorry, guys.
Aye.
That's a shocker as well, man.
Jesus, do you know, I was like that there. Right, I was like, he's. I don't know where I got Miller for. I don't know why I said Miller, but aye, Brady. He was he'd have been the last Irish manager.
It depends what stance you take on it, It's,
Republic.
Yeah.
But he would have been the last, officially, Republic of Ireland.
Mm-hmm.
I think declared for them and all that. I think
Yeah.
it would have been, aye.
Yeah.
Because after him, it was we had our Barneses and our, all those kind of names.
Barnes, Venglos. And Martin O'Neill, obviously.
Wim Jansen.
What a man.
Right. Anyway, next question.
She gives a statement more than a question. El Yunusi, yes or yes?
I'm going to let you go first.
Look, I know you're going to say no.
I'm not going to say no.
I think it's one of those ones where I don't think he would come back. I think there'll probably be better offers for him for more money.
I agree.
And he's at that point where he's 28 and he needs to look after himself and his money moves. A lot of players are going to Saudi Arabia.
I know.
It's generational wealth, you know what I mean? I don't know if it's a fad like the Chinese Super League was, but if you're getting offered that amount of money, it's a short career and you set your family up. I can't, I'll be honest, I can't blame Benzema in that for going, because the name Benzema will never be, I don't even know if it was ever poor to begin with, but in terms of 200, 300 years from now, that move will mean that his whole family are sorted.
Yeah. I'm over the mindset I wouldn't care if he came back and I wouldn't care if he didn't come back. It's not one that I actively want to happen.
Nah.
But I'm not. It's not like I'm like no, we can't have him back. You know what I mean? It's just, I think there's other options out there. I think there's better options out there. But there's certainly worse options out there. So I'm very middle grounded. It's very boring, mate.
The thing about El Yunusi, and I think it probably pushes me more on the no side, is you make no money off of El Yunusi, and unfortunately, the way that Celtic are going to have to be looking at acquisitions now, there's got to be an upside at the end of it.
Yeah. Is El Yunusi one of the names? This is a point I've just thought of this on my head now. How far in Europe did El Yunusi get us when he was here the first time? Not very.
Last 16? No.
Last 32 of the Europa League would have been the furthest we got.
Was he injured at the time?
No, but I don't think so. But what my point is is he going to be a name that Rodgers thinks is ready to take us to the upper echelon of European competition?
I know.
And I know you can't just pin that down to El Yunusi. It's not like El Yunusi determined whether or not we got further in Europe. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm just there's probably better out there that we can try and scout.
Younger as well.
Yeah.
And probably Haxa does the same things, to be honest.
Yeah. I think that Haxa deserves that chance more than El Yunusi does. I'm not trying not to...
Haxa's like the streets version of El Yunusi.
Yeah.
I feel like he's more he's got a wee bit, maybe not dig, but more skill about him as well. That one of those street footballers. You think of Ben Arfa and Tarapt and stuff like that. I know there's a bit more substance to him. I want to see him do well next season. Next season's a big one for him. He's at a bit of a crossroads. Like a few players in this Celtic team, they need to hit the ground running or they'll be out the door, I think. Which is harsh, but it's the nature of the beast.
It's the way it was with Ange.
And
it shouldn't change.
Matthew brings us on to a separate topic that we've not even talked about yet. Brendan Rodgers here for 3 in a row and all that, but is the leaked home kit the worst home kit we've ever had?
I love how we've not spoke about it. And it is absolutely 100% definitely the worst home kit Celtic have ever had.
It's bad, isn't it?
It's bad. And it's like, it's no up for discussion.
It's
It is the
almost-
worst.
In
There's
fact,
not a
it is
home-
indefensible.
There's not a home top that is worse than that in our entire history. Because Nike got it wrong on an occasion or two. You could say New Balance, for some, got it wrong on an occasion with that green collar and the white kind
I
of
hated
sleeve.
that top.
That is genuinely offensively bad. Like, that is the worst Celtic home top we've ever had in our history. There's no doubt
It's
about
right
it.
up there.
It's got to be. It's not the worst top in our history. We've had worse. It's the worst home top, though.
I know, and it's so against how probably one of the best away tops we've had in years, I would say, with regards to that black one that just released. I
Yeah.
think it's an absolute scale.
The away one, I've not got given my thoughts on it because it came out when I was on holiday. My view on the away top is I think it's nice. I think it's clean. And I like it. But I think it's a bit boring. And you only, do you know why though? See any other year, see if that was like a third top any other year, I'd be like, love it. But see, because the home top and in my opinion the third top are pretty stinking, I'm quite annoyed that that's the away top.
I like the third
Do
top.
you like it?
I think if Madrid come out with something like that, people would be.
I think it
idolizing
grew on me as the year goes on, but
I don't think that home one's going to grow on me.
nearly. It'd take a lot, I think.
Did you ever see?
Do you
those-
think? Here's a question: has there been anything said about the shorts?
No. What?
Do you think there's a possibility it could be black with the amount of black there is on the home top?
With a home top?
Aye, it's just the amount
I
of.
don't think you can get away with that.
Just because there's so much black on the shirt, I'm like,
it's
is there a
it's not a
possibility?
great position, is it? But I'm glad one moaning about this than a manager. At least there's some positives with regards to the manager. And maybe it looks better in person. I don't know.
I just
can't
don't
look
get
much
how
worse
they can
than
get
that
it so
picture.
wildly wrong, especially when they've got that beauty lined up for the fourth top.
I mean, if you've seen some of the Juventus kits that they've managed to mess up
I
recently,
know.
that one, the one that looks like a biro pens went down, drawn the
Yeah,
stripes,
yeah.
or the stripes. It's a weird one.
And that's the disappointing thing, because when we signed up with Adidas, I was so excited for a little bit of
They've
adventure.
got this in them. They've got this. We all know that they've got this side to them.
Yeah, and I was like, I was so excited because I knew they were toying about. You see what they've done with Arsenal over the last few years? They've toyed about with some kind of retro patterns and looks. And I'm like, oh my god, I can't wait for Celtic to get that treatment. And instead we get that, and I'm like, eh. So it's quite annoying.
I know it is a wee bit annoying. Not a wee bit, quite a bit annoying, because you need to look. That's the kit we'll be looking at for the majority of this season too.
It's like
The special kit's nice. The
beautiful, gorgeous. Get that out. I'll pay 150 quid for it.
yeah,
But
it's,
like, do you know what's scary as well? And I think it was Kieran that does the quizzes that put it into it. Oh, like, it's not going to happen this season, right? I'm keeping my expectations low, but imagine Celtic actually did get to like a European final, and that's the fucking kit. I would be awful, and I've always hated when teams do it, but I would be championing us to wear next season's kit, like you know how people do that. And if like Man City done it in the Champions League final,
I'm for that, to be honest. I like it.
Do you
when
like
it's cut.
it?
I
I
like it.
don't,
I like
nah.
it when it's cup final and you're wearing a new top, because yes, you
Yeah, I
can
get
lose the
you.
final and it's a bad start, but you can also win something, and then all of a sudden next season it's easy marketing because
but then
they've
I
just won
feel
a trophy.
yeah,
and that.
true. But then I feel like you've lost the meaning of the top from that actual season.
I get that. I get both sides.
And that's why I prefer just wearing. It's like I don't think Celtic have ever done it. I think they done it in Seville, didn't they? I'm pretty sure Seville they wore the top for the next season.
Because my dad got the new kit.
Yeah, like
My
everybody
dad,
went
my
to Seville
uncles,
with the new
everybody
kit
got that,
on.
and the
Aye.
sombrero and that
Like
as well,
so.
like.
Apart from that, though, in recent years, like I'm pretty sure every Scottish Cup final we've wore the kit from that entire campaign.
Yeah.
The only one that I can remember that we could have done it in, but we didn't. I think it was the year of the double treble. I think that the home top did come out and people were wearing the new home top to the game at Hampden, if I remember rightly. But
The Invincible treble I was wearing the anniversary.
So it was that year then. Sorry, yeah.
Because
okay.
I bought the top
to wear
for
it
that
to the
day,
game.
Yeah.
Mhm, yeah.
Because
Right.
it was like only the, I know we've totally went in.
I know
segue.
what a fucking.
This is what happens.
Aye.
Cal, as always, thank you very much for getting involved. You can pick one player to return from the Rodgers era, but it can't be Dembele.
Would it be at their current age? I'm assuming. Because it's like you kind of go back in time and pick like a younger Stuart Armstrong, can
I
I?
know.
Like, that would make no sense. So it must be like current age.
For me, it's KT.
Oh yeah, aye.
KT and Johnson.
Oh yeah. Easy. Next question.
Two absolute dogs in the
easy, innit?
fullbacks,
Like,
man.
aye.
Can you imagine? I don't think we'd lose another game.
I think I would have picked KT even if Dembele was an option. Even though I love Dembele, but I'm like, we've got enough strikers just now. We've got a striker just now.
Incredible. We didn't really talk about the fact that maybe O will get a good response out of. All depends on how he starts, obviously, but Rodgers is good with working with big powerhouse strikers. I think O's got enough in his locker to make it to the next level, so we'll see how that goes.
Let's go quick fire, 'cause
Yeah,
I have
Sean
no
asks
idea how long
best
this is.
flavour
Mate.
of milk. None of them because I'm allergic. Soya milk,
I'm a green milk man.
green milk.
Yeah.
I always find it's quite weird when anybody
Semi-skimmed.
gets blue or red.
Skimmed.
Semi-skimmed.
I have never seen red in my puff. Like,
No,
I've seen it in the shops, but I've never seen anybody's house have like red milk.
I've only seen blue and green.
Yeah,
It's very much a Celtic Rangers thing. It's not an Aberdeen thing. Do you get that maybe up north?
maybe.
Never know.
Maybe they do.
Let me have a wee look.
I wonder what Rodgers' milk is.
Were you disappointed in the lack of Danny McGrain's story and in the announcement? I know I was. I'll just answer that quickly. No. And the more I think about it, the more I'm like, because the statement said, let's get to work. None of the funny business.
But I want the funny business.
I know we both wanted it. I wanted it too up until I seen it announced, and then I was like, no, I get why they've gone down that road.
I keep knocking my microphone off. Like, you cannot hear me right now.
You're raging with Brendan coming back.
Look at this. Look at this. Right. Is that hello? Is that me, Malin? It's just there we go. For days in the streams we've been talking about like, oh, what way should Celtic go about it? I think so far they've probably went about it in the best way they should. Just get the statement out there, get going, announcement's done. But I do want a Danny McGrain video. I do.
It would have been a good way to sort of bend the bridges.
Yeah. Anyway.
Now, would the Green Brigade tweet have came out if it was the Danny McGrain one? Maybe that's the reason why.
Yeah.
You know, I'm putting two and two together. Let me think. I'll go through these quite quickly.
Dart through what is worthy.
Following Rodgers' announcement, this is by Caden. Which bag of cans would or / will you be drinking?
I'm off it. I am off it.
Didn't even have anything at the weekend, Del.
I'm just back from my holiday, so obviously I've been living like a fat git.
Did you have a drink at the wedding? That's a celebration.
Drank that bar dry. Thank you, Tony. If you're listening, Paige, congratulations. Drank that bar dry. They got an extra free drink coupon. They gave out free miniatures. I was bashing the free Prosecco. I had about 5 glasses of that.
Got to, man.
So we certainly did have a drink. That was my Rodgers
drink.
recommend drink.
Yeah. My bag of cans. I've not really been drinking that much recently, so
Nah.
just a wee can of Monster. I'm back in the Monster.
7-Up.
Love that. How do you think Rodgers will do with his current squad, especially in the Champions League this season? We kind of talked
touched
about
upon
that.
that,
We'll
aye.
talk about
But-
it more as
aye,
episodes
yeah.
go. With Kyogo linked to Spurs, would you be interested in a Yeti as our backup to oh my god, that's what I'm saying to that? Or would you prefer we signed a new striker and sold a Yeti? I think it's time.
I think it's pretty obvious what answer would be to that one.
I think it's time for a Yeti to go to pastures now.
It's time to go.
God rest his soul, Claude. Who do you think will improve under Rodgers? We've talked about that. We'll talk about that more.
Yep.
Arjen says, any players that will either thrive or struggle in Brendan's system. We've spoken about that. Will wing Yoda asks, will our wingers thrive under Rodgers? Wingers, they will. Brendan's back from the dark side.
Thank God, we're going to get fucking cancelled in a minute now. We kind of answered that though, don't we?
Yeah. Which players will suffer from Brendan's style?
God's sake. Is that what you can ask?
I like this one. Elliot asks, what kind of aftershave do you boys reckon Brendan Rodgers wears? And also, is anyone else fed up changing the effing Last Christmas lyrics again?
Aftershave. Whoa.
Definitely a Sauvage man.
I'm a
Or
Savage
Creed.
man.
So am I.
So everybody's a Savage man, isn't they? Like, it's the...
Creed as well, if you get a wee bit more
I've
dosh about you.
never really smelt Creed.
Neither have I.
Yeah.
I've just heard it's expensive.
Is there any that's got like reptile in the name or like rat or snake or something like? Is there
I
one?
thought you were
Like,
going to say like Sex Panther from Income. It's illegal in 9 countries.
Sex Panther. I don't know. I'd listen. I'm not a. You can probably believe it when you see it or see me or smell me. I'm not a big aftershave man.
Nah.
I don't use it frequently. I only
Look at
use it
shite
when I'm
stomach,
going out.
Shite superhero. Aftershave man.
Aftershave man. I'm just like, I don't put it on day-to-day basis. I don't know if a lot of people do. No, I don't. I don't at all. Only if I'm going somewhere. Like if I'm going to be in the house all day or coming here, I'm not putting on aftershave.
Fair.
I'll put it on if I was going to like college or uni, or if I'm going a night out, I've got to the pub, put it on. But I don't wake up in the morning and go my aftershave.
I put it on before I go to work.
That's fair. That's fair.
But I'm gonna need to now delegate. I'll
Never.
work aftershave if I going out aftershave because you don't want the same smell.
It doesn't fucking matter for me anyway, because the time I go out and have a fag, it's gone. It's just club. That's my aftershave. Right, next question.
Rank from worst to best or home, away and third kits. For this
Best
season.
is away. Second best is third, and the worst is home.
Which is the second best one just by default.
Yeah.
Because the third one is so bad.
Yeah.
I'd probably agree with that.
It's got to be that.
I think the third kit.
I want to see if it grows in me.
See the away kit. I think if Ajax come out with something like that, everyone's talking about how beautiful.
Do you know what doesn't help us daft a bit? It is an ugly sponsor. Like it's even like on that kit, it's not even as bad because it's just white but it is an ugly sponsor. Like you get good sponsors. Like what is Ajax's sponsor again? Pardon me.
Is it like an insurance company or
I
something?
can't even remember what Ajax's sponsor is. But it's certainly one that caught. Is it not like Zippo?
Something like that.
It is Zippo, is it no? I'm pretty sure it's Zippo. But it's a nice sponsor. It's a clean sponsor. Ziggo. Right, I was close. I thought it was Zippo. But it's a clean sponsor. Daffabet ain't clean. So that brings it down.
Because it's betting as well, so it's ethically not clean either.
Yeah. But that's the ranking, yeah.
Yeah, give us Paramount Plus or something. I like that one, Paramount Plus.
We could have that, but
How that?
but blue.
You can change it.
Maybe. Who knows?
Just like Domino's in Celtic Park. We'll just change the colours of it.
Aye.
You will change for
that
us.
cool. Right, we'll go three more. Right, three more, Ryan. Pick three here. It's 20 to fucking 10.
What new story will Brendan make up?
Could be anything.
Bertie Auld coming to him in his sleep.
Could be
something like
anything. It could genuinely be anything. He's a master manipulator.
that. Yeah, he is.
Dermot
That's
took
why
me
we
in his
love him.
plane. We went for a spot of golf in the sky. We played in the clouds. And
Dermot is a beautiful, beautiful human being.
I realised that life can't get any better than this. So I'm here, and I'm always here.
Love it.
My improvisation skills aren't as good as
What's
they
your
used to be.
thoughts on the 902 bus that goes from Edinburgh Airport to Glasgow? Personally, I think it's good, but should stop in Easterhouse, says Kieran, 1888.
Do you know what's nuts? That's literally the bus I got to the airport last week.
Is it?
Aye.
Maybe that's why maybe he's seen you at.
And I was thinking to myself, why does it not stop Easterhouse? Because it passes Easterhouse. So why does it not stop? Why does it not stop?
Why does it not stop? I know we were talking about service stations a couple of weeks ago. There's a service station, I cannot remember the name of it, and I'm not going to look it up, but it's like the top service station.
Whereabouts is it?
It's down south somewhere.
Right.
It's like homemade. No, it's like not homemade, but it's like a family business that do all the stuff in it.
Okay.
See, for me, that would be the bottom of mine. I want the unhealthiest scan possible when I stop at a service station. I don't want your vegan stuff or whatever. I want a Burger King. Even more so, I would want a McDonald's. See that one, that Gretna one?
Yeah.
You know, the roundabout one?
Yeah.
Unreal. It's the one, even the one that's got the bridge.
Yeah.
We spoke about that.
Tremendous stuff.
I could talk all day about
Let's get the
service
fucking
stations.
Service Stop podcast going.
Yes, we'll just visit every single one. Do you gents, Glasgow Rebel asks, do you gents think Rodgers will look to bring in a Scott Brown type player, someone who isn't afraid to get their hands dirty? I feel we lack that in this current team.
I don't
I
know.
think Kawata could be that guy.
I think Johnson can be that guy.
Yeah, they
to get
don't,
about
they
it,
don't
get his hands
automatically
dirty.
need to play in midfield.
Midfield,
do they?
yeah. And McGregor ain't exactly a pushover either. So, I don't know. Nah. Kind of swing towards nah. But
I think, and here's a left field sort of shout, I think O'Reilly could be an enforcer as well.
He could.
He's big enough and he's good at tackling.
so I say he's big and ugly enough, but he's certainly not ugly.
Oh man, where does it all go wrong for that boy?
I know,
I swear. Gorgeous man.
Right, last question. Right,
I'm
just wrap it up and we'll get bouncing. I've got to start
Okay.
packing and everything.
Okay, but what? So the last. Do we answer Phil's question?
Oh, get Phil.
Yeah.
The fifth man. The third man today.
Oh my God. He's giving us a life story.
Oh, great.
So he's asking you first, how
Uh-huh.
was your holiday?
It was good. Enjoyed it. It was nice to see another part of the world.
So what I like about this as well, he has answered his own question
Oh,
and
good.
given us. So he's meant to, Phil Smith is on fire. I don't know who's terrified.
Us.
He was probably. So Phil was meant to go to Vegas for a wedding, but only a few days prior to this, the dog tripped me up when I was collecting the washing. I like that, man, doing the washing. I like that, you know.
It's good.
Cool world and all that.
Aye.
Fractured femur.
Oh,
Doctor wouldn't let me go.
Right.
Wife was constantly sending me WhatsApps to let me know how much she enjoyed herself. She's more of a snake than Brendan Rodgers.
oh wow.
I know.
She's went and left Phil behind. Now, I'll tell you, that reminds me of a
My wife
story.
left me.
I remember, I don't know why I'm telling this story. It's not my story to tell, it's Kieran Old's story to tell. But this makes me laugh. And I don't know, you'd need to tell me back home if you would do the same thing. But I think this story's fucking brilliant. So Kieran Old's mum and dad forgot to Benidorm, right? And both of them got to Glasgow Airport. And, you know, the 2 hours before your flight, you're meant to get there, obviously.
My dad gets there about 10 hours before the flight.
And then his ma realised that she forgot the passport. But Davey remembered his. So Davey went to Benidorm himself. I think that's fucking brilliant. She's just like, you go. You just went to the Benidorm for himself for the weekend.
She just went, but she didn't get another flight.
No. She just left. It's fine now. So Davey went in his cell and brought back his tobacco and all the rest of it. That was
Did
brilliant.
Kieran go?
No, Kieran, I think Kieran stayed at home. I think Kieran was maybe at his himself for the weekend or whatever. This
Didn't
was
have the
a
house
couple
to
of years
himself
ago.
the last.
I can't remember when it was. I think it was a couple of years ago. And I remember Kieran telling me, I was like, Dad just went here. I wanted to get his tobacco and all that. So I was like, yeah, fair enough. Cool. Would you do that? Would you do the same thing? I think I would. I think I've got it in me. If I got to the airport and any one of my pals or better halves or whatever had forgotten a passport, I'd be like, tough titty, I'm going abroad. Because ain't no way I'm patching the holiday.
I think it'll be solo holidays for me.
Yeah.
I've written all that off now.
Yeah.
That's me. I'm done.
Done.
My love for Celtic is too much. I can't delegate, unfortunately. It's one of those ones. A solo holiday, which means I'll only need one passport. So
Yes.
I'll take that.
That's all you need.
That's all I need.
Right, we got to wrap it up there.
That's Gary was just asking how many rat tweets we've deleted in the past 24 hours.
Well, my old Twitter's gone
That's
anyway.
the
So,
same for me. My old Twitter's gone.
so we're fine. We're in the clear. Never happened.
All we need are the Rhines, says Doogie Boy 1888.
Oh, that's cute.
That's nice.
That's
But
cute.
don't get too used to it, 'cause here in our calm we'll be back.
Should be back
Should
next
be.
episode. But this was a big one. We had to get this out for you this evening. Well, probably out tomorrow morning by the time I go home and edit it. But thank you, Ryan, for joining me
No
and
bother.
this lovely, what's the word?
A Magic Monday is what my good mate Tony will say.
Intimate setup.
Okay.
Aye.
Is that what we're going with?
Face to face.
Fair.
Right, like and subscribe, follow us on Spotify and all that jazz. Have a good night. Brendan's back. Hail, hail. See you next time.